What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, former unified WBC, WBA, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Keith, one-time Thurman, takes to an interview he's done recently, and he absolutely rips in to undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, and currently the WBO welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered the number one pound-for-pound boxer in the world, Terence Crawford. A few notable things Keith Thurman had to say is that Terence Crawford needs to understand what's taking place around him. Keith Thurman states, they're going around saying I asked for $10 million. He says, I didn't ask for $10 million. I'm asking to negotiate. He said, that's false. He says, I learned the business of boxing a long time ago. And in that, I've learned that, you negotiate, right? You're going to get what you're worth, point blank and period. So he states that, Terence Crawford, he says, this is why you get what you pay for. He said, they're going to pay Kell Brook $2 million, then that's what you're going to get. He said, if you pay for sheeps, you're going to get sheeps. If you pay for lions, you're going to get lions. He says, so they're running around saying that I asked for $10 million. I just asked to negotiate. And in the business of boxing, you start off high. In any business, you start off high and you negotiate. They wasn't willing to negotiate. They wanted to pay for sheeps. I'm not a sheep. I'm one of the best out there. Then he says that, Terence Crawford, and his team, he said top-ranked CEO Bob Arum, legendary promoter, he says that they're just not willing to negotiate for the best out there. So if they're not willing to negotiate for the best out there, then you're going to get what you get. And I'm not mad at that, but stop running around acting like I was avoiding a fight. He says, I never even put a specific number out there. He says, so they're telling me I asked for $10 million. He says, I was just willing to negotiate. He says that they truly don't want to make big fights. He says at the end of the day, I'm okay with that because over here at PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, with advisor and founder Al Heyman, we are making all the big fights. He says it's easy for us to make the big fights. At the end of the day, I already fought Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, and Manny Pacquiao. He says at the end of the day, you look at the landscape of the PBC, we're mixing it up. We have the best of the best are over here, and we're mixing it up with one another. He says, so Terence Crawford over there is lacking the opponents. And if they're not looking to negotiate for any type of real money for real fights, then you get what you pay for. And he ended by saying, if you pay for sheeps, you're gonna get sheeps. If you pay for lions, you're gonna get lions. So, end quote. So Keith Thurman, lets it be known, he says that, that they're running around telling people I asked for $10 million instead of negotiating numbers down. He says networks and promoters, they're looking to make the big money. He says as fighters, our career is short-lived. So we have to make as much money as possible, for our future when it's all over. He stated that, Ben Getty, his former trainer that, transitioned, he says that, he taught me a lot about the business of the sport of boxing. He let me know that I'm going to be one of the big money makers in the sport of boxing, and I am. He says the networks and the promoters love Keith Thurman because I'm excited and I bring a lot to the sport of boxing, and I'm skillful in the ring. So he says, listen, my fight with Manny Pacquiao, he says that Terence Crawford continuing to let everybody know in Terence Crawford team that I lost my title. He said it is what it is. At the end of the day, he says at the end of the day, it was a very close fight. And yes, I can't complain because I left it up in the judge's hands. He says that, so Manny Pacquiao got the victory. He says, but Manny Pacquiao is a legend. He has the best resume in all of boxing, right? He's an icon in the sport, so he's like, losing the man. I was the first one to say, if you have an O, if I have an O, I'm not afraid to let it go. So he said that if you're going to beat me. He said at the end of the day, you're going to have to do it in my face. You're going to stand in my face and you're going to do it. And that's what Manny Pacquiao did. He said, I closed the gap in the second half, but at the end of the day, I left it up to the judges. So he's like, it's nothing to, I'm not going to cry and complain about it. That's my fault. He said, but when I get the opportunity to rectify it, he said, I will rectify it. He said, I have the skills to offset and beat Terence Crawford. I have the skills to offset and beat most of these guys that you would think maybe it's an upset. I gather he was alluding to undefeated, unified WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Earl True Spence Jr. He didn't truly mention his name, but I gather that's where he was hinting at because he already beat Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. He lost to Manny Pacquiao, said he wanted to rectify it, said that he could beat Terence Crawford, and he said anybody else. So I gather he was alluding to Errol Spence Jr. But this is a clear indicator that maybe the lines are crossed between Terence Crawford, his team, and Bob Arum, right? Because Keith Thurman is saying he was willing to negotiate for the fight for Terence Crawford. But they saw the first number that Keith Thurman is saying that is not even an official first number, but whatever is what he's saying. He said, but they took in $10 million and they run with $10 million saying I'm pricing myself out. And they wasn't even willing to negotiate it down. Why? Because Bob Arum wasn't looking to pay big money to Keith Thurman anyway.
Sorry,
Bob Arum just recently stated that, he's interested in a Sean Porter fight if Sean Porter takes $1 million. So imagine if Keith Thurman did start off with $10 million and Bob Arum number for Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia is $1 million or 1.5, then he's not looking to negotiate big fights. And that's a long ways off from the $20 million to $25 million that Manny Pacquiao is looking for. And Bob Arum stated that Manny Pacquiao had agreed to the fight with Terence Crawford for November 14th. I highly doubt that. I don't believe that that was true at all whatsoever because there's a number Manny Pacquiao is looking for. It didn't change since when he was, since 2017, 2016, when they were even discussing the possibility of Manny Pacquiao facing off against Terence Crawford. He was asking for $20 million then, and he was still signed to Top Rank. Okay? And Bob Arum was saying that Manny Pacquiao is pricing himself out. And then Bob Arum stated that Manny Pacquiao was a close friend of his, so he didn't want to see the fight happen, so he blocked it. He stood in the way of it. So Manny Pacquiao leaves Top Rank, signs with PBC and Al Heyman, gets the $20 to $25 million that he was looking for from Bob Arum and Top Rank for the Crawford fight. He gets it for the Adrian Broner fight, 4-division world champion superstar boxer. And this is all confirmed by Bob Arum. And then he gets it for the Keith Thurman fight, confirmed by Bob Arum. So Bob Arum stated that he's just happy he didn't have to pay that money to Manny Pacquiao. So that lets you know that Bob Arum just simply is not looking to pay Manny Pacquiao this big amount of money. So if Manny Pacquiao is getting this money with the PBC right now for these fights, why would he look back and fight Terence Crawford to negotiate the number down? And clearly, if Bob Arum is not willing to negotiate down from $10 million, you know he's not looking to negotiate down from $25 to $20 million. Because then that $25 to $20 million is going to end up around $15 million. That's more than the $10 million that Keith Thurman was looking for. So it's abundantly clear it's not the PBC side. It's the fact that Bob Arum doesn't want to negotiate and doesn't want to break bank out his pocket for these fights. Bob Arum just last night stated that if Al Heyman wants to go to a purse bid for Sean Porter and Terence Crawford fight, Sean Porter being Terence Crawford's mandatory challenge for the WBO, he says he'll let it go to purse bid, allowing Al Heyman to win the purse bid. Thus, Al Heyman has to fit the bill for the fight. Or he wanted to pay Sean Porter $1 million to fight. It's abundantly clear, and it should be clear to Terence Crawford, the reason he's not getting the fights with the PBC is not that the agenda that they looking to push and tell you that the PBC fighters are just not looking to fight. No, it's Bob Arum is preventing these fights because Bob Arum don't want to pay big money for these fights. Point blank and period. Whether you believe it's business or not, the facts remain is Bob Arum doesn't want to pay for the fights. Whether you think it's good business or not. Whether you think Sean Porter's worth the fight or not. Whether you think Keith Thurman's worth it or not. The end of the day, he's not looking to pay Manny Pacquiao. He's not looking to pay Sean Porter. He's not looking to pay Keith Thurman. He's definitely not going to be looking to pay Yordenis Ugas or any of these other guys. He barely wanted to pay Kell Brook. And he just stated that if they do negotiate for a fight with Errol Spence for a mega fight, it will have to be 50-50 or nothing. Therefore, he gets his return on his investment. He guarantees his return on his investment. So he doesn't want to have them be the A side and he loses out. So thus the reason why 50-50 is keep continuing to come up. That's why Terence Crawford continues to rebuttal the 50-50, because he understands that Bob Arum is not looking to negotiate for Errol Spence unless it's 50-50. He understands that if he was on his own, that's why Terence Crawford stated, if I was on my own, I can make these fights happen. If I didn't have Top Rank and Bob Arum, I would make these fights happen. Right, because Terence Crawford would accept a 60-40 split with Errol Spence just to prove that he's the better fighter. But he knows Bob Arum is not going to negotiate, and since he's still under contract until October of 2021, he don't want to ruffle any feathers. He wants to smooth it over. Thus the reason why he stated that he don't want to hold Bob Arum accountable for the statements he made, stating that he lost money on Terence Crawford, so much so that he could build a mansion in Beverly Hills. And Terence Crawford came out and said he don't place any blame on Bob Arum because he understands Bob Arum wants to truly make these fights, and it's the other side that's preventing it. Terence Crawford knows very well that that's not the case, but Terence Crawford doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. Terence Crawford is going to end up facing and sitting on the shelf until Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor have a conclusion to their saga. They'll move up to welterweight from junior welterweight. They'll make a storyline of the last two undisputed junior welterweights going at it between Terence Crawford and winner Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. So he'll be sitting on the shelf at least until the summertime. And he'll fight once or twice, maybe twice, pushing it in 2021. Right? So it's abundantly clear it's not Keith Thurman, as Keith Thurman stated. I was willing to negotiate down from the number that I put out there. That once they first contacted me, they wasn't willing to negotiate. They heard the first number and they walked away from the table. That should be an issue for Terence Crawford regarding his team. He should have an issue with that. He should look at, you're supposed to negotiate down. If you believe it's good business that Bob Arum is doing, then you should believe that the first rule of business is to put the highest number out there and negotiate it down. That's why it's called negotiations. But they weren't willing to negotiate because they never wanted to pay Keith Thurman to begin with. Why? Because let's say they negotiate down, the number would be about $5 million. And they can't guarantee that Terence Crawford will win the fight. See, when it's a fight that they pretty much guarantee he'll win, they don't mind negotiating, a la Amir Khan. Amir Khan got $7 million for the fight, so they don't mind negotiating when it comes from that standpoint. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Buzz Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Buzz Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.